Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful Easter. Christ has risen. We'll get started in just a minute. Um, so we got a number of things to talk about. We'll get into it in a second. I'm just gonna wait to see if anybody wants to show up. If yes or no. So, what a week. What a week. Ugh. It's been a while since I've been to the Easter Vigil. When they say vigil, it really is vigil. I got out of there at after midnight. I don't know. I was going to go somewhere today, but by the time I got back home, it was late, and I'm feeling lazy this weekend. So maybe next time. Yeah, Rain's a big JoJo fan. Isn't that right, girl? I know. She looked at me, so I'm guessing that means that she is. So, okay. Give it a little couple more minutes, and then we will begin. We'll be taking some field trip. A lot of stuff is happening, and nothing at all, but a lot of stuff. I hope people. Somebody asked if my memes were from 2022, like that I have old memes. Um, I just generally don't remove old ones. I remove some old ones if they have to do with specific events, but if I like the meme, I'll just leave it in. Like Rain hasn't been that small in 3 years, but it's cute. It's cute to see her there. Uh, yep, Christ has risen. Happy Easter. Um, so I guess before we get into this, just some Easter reflections. One of my favorite moments in the Bible is when you have the good thief and the bad thief. So, for those of you who haven't read the Bible in a while, when Christ gets crucified, there is a thief that is crucified on his right and a thief is crucified on his left, and they are asked. And one of them chooses to make fun of Jesus when he's crucified, and then the other one defends Jesus and says, "Look, you and I, we deserve what we got. We were both bad men in life. We both stole. We broke the law. We deserve it. This guy didn't do anything wrong. Stop harassing him." And Jesus says to the man, "Tonight you will be with me in paradise." And I just always loved that story. And actually, the crucifix I wear is an Orthodox one because of it has the uh, foot thing, the footrest that's pointed up one way and pointed down the other. And I've always just liked that story because I think it shows that no matter the circumstances, no matter what you've done, it's never too late to repent. Um, that guy, even after a lifetime of doing bad stuff, of of everything, because he repented in the end and he acknowledged his sin, he was able to achieve salvation. I think that's just a very important thing because I find a lot of people will just give up and say it's too late for me. I've done too much stuff and stuff like that. And I've just always found that a very beautiful moment. I should probably take that one out of the rotation since it's been a while. I just find it really funny. The Michigan's deceased. Okay. So before we get into today's story, today's stories, we're gonna take a little field trip. Wait, did I do the wrong? Did I screw this up? Oh, I didn't put. Okay, well, I did screw this up. Oh well, we'll figure this out as it goes along. We'll figure this out as it goes along. Just give me a second. I thought I had these things in Brave, but I didn't have them in Brave. I had them in uh, what's it called again? In Chrome. So just give me one sec. There we go. Just okay. So all right, we're gonna start off with a little field trip. So we have some more news from our old friend Pashinyan, the greatest leader that Armenia has ever had. Um, the right side is pointing upwards to heaven because in the Old Testament, the right hand another body. Parts I don't remember, the ones anointed with oil. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. In the case of it, my understanding is it's to represent. Well, it's representing a lot of things, but it's representing the choice we all have to make in life. It's pointed upward to indicate that the good thief went to heaven, and pointed downward to indicate that the bad thief went to hell. So we have our own buddy Pashinyan. And he's decided that he's going to take a stand for the Armenian people. Armenia does not recognize Nagorno-Karabakh government and exile Pashinyan. So, for those of you who don't remember, Nagorno-Karabakh was a part of Azerbaijan that was like 99% Armenian. They had a war over it back at when the Soviet Union collapsed. Armenia had won the war at that point in time. And as part of winning the war, they had that part had become de facto independent, along with some other areas that were Armenian majority. Now, a couple of years ago, we had the Azerbaijan-Armenian War, which it's pretty obvious that Pashinyan just completely threw. He came to power under very suspicious color revolutionary circumstances, and since he's come to power, he's done everything to torpedo Armenians that are stuck in Azerbaijan. Most of Nagorno-Karabakh was lost during that war. Azerbaijan took out their own special military operation and invaded, and he immediately recognized Nagorno-Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan and said there would be no aid to them and no support to them. So the predictable happened. Azerbaijan overran the area. The Armenians got ethnically cleansed. I think something like 80 to 90% of them left in 2 weeks. And he suspended his alliance with Russia because he's convinced that France is going to save him. France is somehow going to save him. Okay, statements that the so-called government in exile of the unrecognized Nagorno-Karabakh Republic is operating in Armenia are a threat to national security. Official Yerevan does not recognize such a structure. Cite a decree officially dissolving... Okay. The government in exile exists in Yerevan. I cannot but note that some circles, particularly displaced, circles forcibly displaced from Nagorno-Karabakh, voluntarily or involuntarily take actions and steps that threaten Armenia's national security. Declare some governments in exile. I would like to state very clearly there is a government in the Republic of Armenia, and this government is sitting in this very room. Yeah, that's they're just basically there's no government in exile. I am the law. I'm Pashinyan. I was put in power by the National Endowment of Democracy. We also have we're gonna make some additional territorial concessions to Azerbaijan. Armenia is ready to cede Azerbaijan control of 4 border villages formerly inhabited by Azerbaijanis. So Zach Kilgore is putting out... so Pashinyan got really angry because Russia didn't bail him out when Nagorno-Karabakh collapsed. And I think Putin said at the time, look, he recognized it as part of Azerbaijan. There's really nothing we can do at this point. Like... What do they expect us to do? Like, and go in and prevent them from taking territory that you have legally recognized as part of them? So he said that they're going to go ahead and give some more territory over. But none of the territory that belongs to the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic is going to be ceded. Just the other territories that have Armenian majorities. So that's good. That's good. Okay, so before we get into the interviews, we have a clip I would like to show. I would like to, yeah. So this is a movie I've never really heard it talk about, especially since Downfall became such a big meme. This is from the movie Hitler: The Last 10 Days, and this is where we have Alec Guinness. Yes, that Alec Guinness starred as Hitler. I never see it talked about, but this I think is going to set this is going to set the tone for the rest of this.
It happened to me what happened to Christ. There were fanciful artists depicting me with red hair or a beard or any nonsense like that. Events for Germany. Wouldn't the German people, wouldn't history itself, very ultra-Marxist, considerable forces in Norway and Italy, good news.
Let me see. Okay, maybe that's not the right clip. Sorry. Okay, here we go. This is it. This basically summarizes the entirety of the UCU.
What about your headquarters company here, Krebs?
Indeed. What about him, Krebs?
You're right, my Führer. The men are fresh and well equipped. But there are only 250 of them.
What have numbers got to do with it? You generals think only in numbers. When I started my National Socialist Party, it had less than 250 members, opposed to 60 million citizens. When in 1936, I marched into the Rhineland, I was told it couldn't work. Our little army of 100,000 against the 2 million strong army of France. In 1938, I was warned how dangerous it would be to march into Austria. Our enemies so greatly outnumbered us. Same year, I was told that my policy towards the Czechs would mean the ruin of Germany because of the vast armies which might oppose us. Despite the sizes of their armies, we swallowed Poland and France, sent the English reeling back across the Channel, overran the Balkans, took Athens, and pushed the Russians to the shores of the Caspian Sea. The gods give their love only to those who demand the impossible. Mankind is ruled by will, by determination. When the will is thrust by genius, it generates a force which throughout history has proved irresistible. Order your company to counterattack.
Yes, my Führer.
Okay, so that I think sets the tone for the rest of this. Okay. Where we go? Where are we? Okay. So this is an interview we had with Zelensky. Let's see where. That is from Hitler: The Last 10 Days, and Democracy Dies Behind a Paywall. Because this is the Washington Post. Fortunately, I saved a copy of this. Here we go. Okay. Zelensky, we are trying to find some way to not retreat. President Vladimir Zelensky delivered a stark message to Congress in an interview on Thursday as Russian missiles were pounding southern Ukraine. Give us weapons to stop the Russian attacks, or Ukraine will escalate its counterattacks on Russian airfields, energy facilities, and other strategic targets. Isn't that like a threat? It's like, we're gonna escalate this war. We're gonna start World War III unless you give us stuff. Also, I thought they had lots of stuff. Also, I thought Russia was out of missiles. Let's see here. Russia is out of missiles. Oh, wait, Russia's going to run out of missiles. Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is Russia switching war strategy as missiles run out. I thought Russia was out of missiles. Business Insider, Russia's scrambling for missiles. Didn't Russia run out of missiles many months ago? How many missiles does Russia have left? So I thought that they were out of missiles, but apparently they have a bunch and they're firing them. So that's cool. All right. But so what's been happening? And let's just go to Deep State UA. By the way, funny thing about Alec Guinness, he got really irritated that he was recognized for his role as Obi-Wan, because he had so many other major roles. Like he starred in Bridge of the River Kwai, he had Prince Faisal in Lawrence of Arabia, obviously Hitler in that movie. There's a whole bunch of movies he was in that he considers much better. And he kind of got irritated when kids kept going up to him and asking him about Star Wars, which I think is funny. So Russia has dramatically increased its bombardment of Ukraine all over the place. I believe they hit a major gas facility yesterday. They've been hitting a lot of the power infrastructure. And the general belief is that an attack on Kharkov is coming. I have heard that Ukraine has pulled out a lot of its senior officials there. They're desperately trying to build defenses. The government cut a lot of the funding for it, that particular area. And it's looking like whenever Russia decides to launch its big offensive, Kharkov is going to be the next place. But Russia has rolled out 3,000-pound three-ton glide bombs. They've increased their production of them quite a bit. The Ukrainian air defense is basically non-existent at this point, so they don't have just air superiority, but air supremacy. And it just kind of gets worse as time goes on. What's interesting is artillery is being used less now than it was previously. The Russians have switched more to using glide bombs and other military aviation. My understanding is artillery is not very effective against fortifications compared to larger bombs, but someone can correct me on that. So what Ukraine has decided to do is they've just decided to start firing missiles into Russia. So they've just started trying to hit targets throughout Russia, throughout Western Russia. They've been hitting a couple oil refineries and a couple oil storage facilities with kind of small drones. They fired a whole bunch of Storm Shadow missiles at Crimea, and they claimed they sunk a ship. The big thing now is sinking ships in Crimea, because there is the idea that if they do... Because it looks really bad when they sink a ship. But they don't have that many missiles, and they have to fire like 5 or 6 of a very limited number in order to hit something. I mean, it sucks when Russia loses ships, but this isn't a naval war. Okay, so that sounds like Zelensky is trying to threaten them. Zelensky spoke in a sandbagged, heavily guarded presidential compound that seemed nearly empty of its old civilian workforce after more than 2 years of war. The security was so tight I had to surrender my plastic felt-tip pens. But Zelensky appeared as animated and pugnacious as ever, as when he made his defiant stand in the courtyard when the war began. So it looks like he's just moved to a bunker at this point in time. I think he did that as in part of the aftermath of the whole terror attack in Moscow. So when this conflict started out, Zelensky went to Israel and asked Israel to ask Russia that they don't assassinate him. And Russia said okay. Probably because he's incompetent and delusional. And Russia didn't really see a reason to try to assassinate him. But because of the whole thing that happened in Moscow at the Crocus nightclub, Is there any reason why the maximum stream quality is 720p? I don't know. Because my internet's shit. That's why. My internet's really, really bad because I live in Canada. So that's probably the reason. If you can't read it, I'll try to increase it for next time. But internet in Canada is really bad. I'm not even sure if you can stream in full HD. Let's see here. So Zelensky appeared as impregnacious as ever. Okay, so what was I talking about again? Yeah, so let's talk a little bit just to go back to the Chorus nightclub, Crocus or whatever you pronounce it, nightclub shooting. Sorry, not nightclub. There's so many ISIS terrorist attacks. So the thing that about it that I still find bizarre is how the U.S. within 2 hours of it coming out, 2 hours of the shooting, the U.S. came out and said it was ISIS Special K. Not only was it ISIS Special K, they were the only ones involved. We know for a fact that they were the only ones involved. We have all this information we didn't share because Russia's evil. They gave this very weird, contradictory answer that didn't really make a lot of sense, and that was the thing. They somehow were able to figure out every aspect of the terrorist attack within 2 hours with no investigation. Which, how would they know that? These are all very good questions, and it's not just they said we know for a fact Ukraine wasn't involved because I guess they planned all their foreign ops, and because of that, I don't know, they know somehow. But it's like, how do you know no one else is involved? Like, that's kind of weird. Once again, it doesn't necessarily mean that Ukrainian government's involved. Like, some other Islamic group could have been involved, maybe Chechen separatists, maybe ultra-nationalists, maybe some other dissident group, maybe the Russian mafia, maybe some... there's all kinds of other people who, admittedly, a lot of them are stretched, but could have been involved in this. And they just immediately knew that none of these people were involved. It was just ISIS Special K, which is very sussy. And then they brought up the whole, we gave you the warning on March 7th. But if you go back and look at the warning was for 24 hours. There was a concert at the Chorus Night Theater during the 24 hours. And there was a lot of security there. The terrorists decided not to do it. The Russians waited a week or two, and then they just figured that the terrorist attack had been called off. Now, what I think America should have done, and I'm just going to give some constructive criticism, is what they should have said is, we got information about a terrorist attack. We passed it on to the Russians. Unfortunately, it looks like while they prevented the original one, the terrorists delayed or changed their plans, and they attacked on a different date. It's too bad. If we had the information, we would have given it to them. We're sorry that this happened. We just hope that this investigation is carried out professionally and it's not used as a way to justify more action in Ukraine. I think that's all they really need to say. I think that would have made a lot of sense. The obfuscation, the weird claims, all that stuff really doesn't help your case. It just makes you look really sussy. Okay, let's see here. He looked less haggard on his home ground than he had a month ago in Munich. He seems to relish being the symbol of the war. The congressional delay in approving the $60 billion military aid package has been costly for Ukraine, Zelensky said. The military has been unable to perform future operations while legislators squabbled for nearly 6 months. He warned that hard-pressed Ukrainian forces might have to retreat to secure their front lines and conserve ammunition. Not one step back. Not one step back. If there is no U.S. support It means we have no air defense, no Patriot missiles, no jammers for electronic warfare, no 155 millimeter artillery rounds, he said. It means we will go back, retreat step by step in small steps. I thought they had lots of this stuff. I thought Russia was out of aircraft. I thought they were shooting down them like crazy. To describe the military situation, Zelensky took a sheet of paper and drew a simple diagram of the combat zone. If you need 8,000 rounds a day to defend the front line, but you only have 2,000 rounds, you have less. He explained how. You have to do less. Of course, to go back, make the line shorter. If it breaks, Russians could go to the big cities. I thought Russia lost. Russians are fighting with only shovels. They're using shovels. How are they doing this? Also, once again, this is, I think, the single most... Okay, we're going to look at the single most delusional thing of this entire war. Zelensky says Ukraine has only lost 31,000 people. Once again, why is there even a debate over any kind of mobilization or conscription? That's like nothing compared to Ukraine's population. For a 2-year-long war that's been as high intensity as this, that's really good. I think that was his memory hold and no one mentions it again. Once again, if Zelensky was going to lie, he should have come up with something more believable, or just said, we've lost a lot of brave men, but I'm not going to reveal our exact losses for OPSEC. But, yeah. We're trying to find some way not to retreat after the Russian capture of Avdiivka in February. We have stabilized the situation because of smart steps in our military. The front remains stable, he said. Ukraine can arm and train new brigades in the rear to conduct a new counteroffensive later this year. Once again, I bring you back to the Hitler clip where he's like, we're going to counterattack the 250 dudes. But Russia is, if we even just look at this pro-Ukraine map, they are launching small offensives all across the line. They're gradually taking territory. They took out Avdiivka, and they are slowly pushing forward. Now, there is a belief that Russia will launch a major offensive at some point in time. We're in the middle of the Retsputsia, I think it's called. I'm probably mispronouncing it. That is, the snow is melted. There is the spring rains. The ground is pretty bad at the moment. And it's thought maybe once it dries out in the summer, they will launch their major operation. And the problem is, you see, Russia has this fucking weird idea where they don't announce their plans ahead of time. So the Russian general staff has not said whether there's going to be a operation or not. They've not said if they're going to launch something or not launch something. They've just basically not said anything. And it's a strange idea. I don't know why you would run a war that way when you can like loudly announce that you're going to attack in a specific direction and give a date for it. It's weird. It's like how will Ukraine be able to get defenses in position in time if they don't announce it? Also, we have this retardation, Zelensky. I'm sorry to keep bringing this stuff up, but I have to. I have to bring in the context. Does anyone remember this? Spring offensive was leaked. You leaked it. Like, you put out the trailer. Okay, so it's the front remains, but the front isn't stable. Like, Avdiivka fell, Bakhmut fell. I think the retarded landing on the east bank of the Dnieper fell. Zelensky summed up the zero-sum reality of this conflict. Okay. When I asked whether Ukraine was running short of interceptors and other air defense weapons to protect its cities, an infrastructure responded, "That's true. I don't want Russia to know what air defense missiles we have, but basically you're right. Without the support of Congress, we have a big deficit of missiles. This is the problem. We are increasing our own air defense systems, but it is not enough." How are they doing that? Like, we have all these plans to build factories in Ukraine. Isn't Russia just going to blow them up? Like, don't you need... Like, keep in mind, during World War II, you would need, like, some cases, hundreds of bombers to just saturation bomb an area in order to hit anything. Now we have glide bombs and cruise missiles and short-range ballistic missiles and stuff. It's a lot more accurate than it used to be. As Russian... Okay, and once again, we're going to just look at this. Okay, so this is from November. According to Reuters... I'm trying to find... It doesn't say there how many there are. It's 5 or 600, but I just want to make sure that, like, you have a source for this. Let's see. Okay, I don't have one. You can look it up. It's like 5 or 600 a year. It's not really enough. Okay, this is the problem we are not in... Okay, as Russian drones, missiles, and precision bombs break through Ukraine's defenses to attack energy... the shovels. Zelensky has no choice but to punch back across the border in the hope of establishing deterrence. An example is Ukraine's drone strike against Russian refineries over the past month. I asked Zelensky if U.S. officials... had warned against such attacks on energy facilities inside Russia, as had been rumored. Here's a little, kind of a strange comment to make. Russia's really, really big. How are they gonna, like, do significant damage? Also, they're drones. These aren't, like, big bombs. These are, like, I don't know, a couple pounds. Zelensky has argued that he could check attacks on Ukraine's energy grid only by making Russia pay a similar price. If there is no air defense to protect our energy system and Russians attack it, my question is, why can't we answer them? Their society has to learn to live without petrol, without diesel, without electricity. It's fair. Now, I've always said that this whole thing where Ukraine isn't allowed to fire into Russia, I think, is kind of dumb. I mean, if Russia's allowed to bomb stuff in Ukraine, Ukraine should be allowed to bomb stuff in Russia. I think the argument that Russia makes is Russia doesn't bomb the staging grounds in Poland or Romania or Slovakia or any of the other countries that are near Ukraine. And those are safe zones, and that NATO should extend them the same courtesy. I don't know, though. I've always thought it was really lame when Russia kvetches about that. Also, when Ukraine does it, they tend to specifically target civilians. Almost none of what they hit is a military target. It tends to be specifically at that. Okay. When Russia will stop these steps, we will stop. What Zelensky wants is urgently our long-range ATACMS 300 missiles, which he said could strike targets in Russian-occupied Crimea, especially the air fields from which Russia launches planes with precision-guided missiles that are doing heavy damage. These missiles recently hit Odessa and several other targets. Sorry, I'm still kind of waking up. When Russia has missiles and we don't, they attack by missiles. everything, gas, energy, schools, factories, and civilian buildings. ATACMS 300, that's the answer, guys. That is the game changer. If we can just get the ATACMS 300s, this whole thing is going to be turned around somehow. He said he wanted to use the longer range missiles not to attack Russian territory, but those airfields in Crimea. When Russia knows we can destroy the jets, they will not attack from Crimea. It's like with the Sea Fleet. We push them from our territorial waters. Now we will push them from the airports in Crimea. If Russia loses the airports in Crimea, it's over. It's over. There's nowhere else they could base their aircraft. There's nowhere else. Also, what's the how many ATACMS are they going to get? Are we assuming that Russia is going to shoot none of them down? Are we assuming Russia's retarded? If their airfields start getting hit, they won't just move their planes somewhere else? They're just going to sit there completely unprotected with no air defense, with no... I don't know. He has to sell something. We have to keep the grift going. Okay. Zelensky recalled that in Munich in February, he took out a map of the targets ATACMS could hit. I showed the military platforms like airports, air defense systems, and other sites. When asked if the ATACMS is on the way, as is rumored in Washington, he laughed and said, "I can't share it with you, this information. Sorry." He said the missiles are not in Ukraine now. So I can't tell you if we have them, but we don't have them. Zelensky touted his program for a domestically produced army of drones, including some that can reach 1,000 kilometers or more into Russia. Once again, is the assumption here Russia can't produce drones? I mean, Russia could build drones. They have factories. Is the narrative now that they're going to be able to hit the Ural Mountains? That they're going to be hit stuff that's in the heartland of Russia with enough missiles to be able to take out Russia's industry? With these little drones? I mean, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. They've done a pretty good. It's been very impressive what they've done with the drones, but it's not as if Russia can't build them too. Whether he thought Biden was too cautious, I think he's curious about nuclear attack from Russia. His view is Putin wouldn't risk a nuclear exchange, but he concluded the Russian leader is unpredictable. There's nobody in the world who can tell you 100% what he will do. That's why Biden is cautious. Are they even trying to hit Russian railways and highways? I mean, what's really the point? You can just repair those pretty easily. They keep hitting the Crimean Bridge and they keep repairing it. Let me see how much an ATACMS costs to make. An ATACMS costs approximately $800,000, I think, per missile. Wait a minute. Okay, no, $1.5 million. It costs between $1.5 million and $1.7 million to just slightly damage a highway. I'd imagine the damage on that can be repaired pretty quick. Lessons of war for Zelensky after 2 years of brutal fighting that has killed many of the best officers and soldiers in the Ukraine army is that Putin should have stopped sooner. What? Putin should have stopped sooner. We are not strong against him. Obama was wrong. Oh, maybe they mean Putin should have been. Should have been stopped. Okay, I just blanked there. Trying to find where. Putin is cunning, but he's not smart, he said. When you fight with a smart person, it's a fight with rules. But when you fight a cunning person, it's dangerous. That is a galaxy tier cope. Looking ahead, Zelensky and Ukraine's options depend on what Congress decides. Until Ukraine knows it has continuing U.S. support, we will stay where we are now in the east. He concluded Ukraine might conduct limited offensive operations, but to push them out, we need more weapons. Putin will divide the world. Let me see, because he was talking about borders. I think he mentioned something about trying to find it. So Zelensky has slightly changed his opinion. Okay, here we go. So this was the other part of the interview. I'm Ukrainian. President of Ukraine, Zelensky, has said that Vladimir Putin will be ready for dialogue if Ukrainian troops are able to return to the borders in early 2022. So this is the first acknowledgement that they aren't going to get every square inch back. There will be no need to liberate the rest of the country exclusively by military means, and negotiations can begin. I'm sure that when Putin loses the territories he has controlled since 2022, he will lose the trust of even the countries that still have their doubts. He will also lose power in his country. Once this happens, he will be ready for dialogue. And then the liberation of all our territories and the territorial of Ukraine should become an obligatory international condition for peace. That's definitely going to happen. The situation has been stabilized, is better than it was 2 or 3 months ago. What is he talking about? Avdiivka fell. There's, okay. Let me see, where is it? Ukraine can win a war of attrition. That's cool. I'm trying to find it. Ukraine didn't build the defenses it needed most in a key area where it had the chance, and now it's got a problem. In a key area, so Ukrainian forces outside captured Avdiivka are outgunned, short on critical supplies. The quality of these defensive lines cannot be good enough to resist the massive bulldozer tactics. So the front line is not stable. Unless we're going to go and say that, which publication? We're going to say Business Insider is pro-Russian propaganda. Let's see here. Ukrainian leader was commented on by Putin's spokesperson. Okay, let's just see here. Only under the peace formula proposed by Zelensky, it includes Ukraine's return to 1991 borders, including the return of Crimea and Donbass. That's not going to happen. So it's changed from we need to retake all of the territory to if we retake most of the territory, then Russia will just give up. They will just cut their losses. Liberation of Ukraine's territories occupied after 2022 may force Putin to negotiate. I mean, Putin won re-election with 86% of the vote. Let me see here. Where is it? Western... Okay, let's see here. So, according to, I believe that this is, I'm not sure what the source, does it say what the source of this is? Okay. Is this a Western funded one? Where is this based? Trying to find it. My understanding is the opinion poll has him at like 83% approval. I think what he got in the election was basically the same as what. I'm just trying to find it. Sorry, I didn't get this up and running in time. But if you look it up, okay, Putin's popularity. Okay, so this is a U.S. poll. Just trying to see if it says in Russia. Okay, here we go. So this is according to far-right pro-Russia source Newsweek, known for being very pro-Russia. According to Western polls, separate YouGov poll. Okay, let's see. Where is it? Within Russia, over 80% of Russians approve of Putin's activities as of March 2023, according to data published on March 30th. Only 80% of the population supports him, guys. That's what, like double what Darkside Brandon has? What's Biden's approval rating at the moment? Putin has more than double Biden's approval rating. And once again, this is a Western poll. This is, to my understanding, this is not a Russian poll. This is according to Newsweek. But no, it's gonna completely collapse. Now, did Russia rig the election? They probably did. I like to call Russian elections overdetermined, wherein I'm sure Putin would win regardless. I don't think there's any real question of that. Do they rig elections so he wins by a bigger majority? And do they ban probably more viable candidates? Yeah, they probably do. But it's probably the difference between 70% of the vote and over 80% of the vote, like, to be perfectly honest. Zavolny, or whatever his name is, only was getting like 1% of the vote or something like that. Okay, so that was the plan. That was the plan. Now we're going to look at the other bunker speech. By the way, Darkside Brandon, Joe Biden recognized Transgender Day on Easter. We're just going to take a little field trip before we get into Syrskyi. Biden on Saturday proclaimed March 31st as Transgender Day of Visibility to honor the extraordinary courage and contributions of transgender Americans. So Speaker Johnson attacked him. The American people are taking note. Let's see here. So that's, yeah. That's cool. Where is the other one? There's another one I have that, oh yeah. Okay, so Ash Wednesday in Ireland, I believe that they have introduced a smoking session day. Yeah, National No Smoking Day. So in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, Wednesday is National No Smoking Day during Ash Wednesday. So that's cool. It's definitely not a attempt to force secularism. Ukraine's army chief has warned Russia against launching a renewed offensive on the city of Kharkov. Once again, keep in mind that Zelensky was removed. He was sent into exile in Britain. I think two of them are I think Ukraine has two ambassadors in Britain. Okay, so it is... Okay, so forget how, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he got fired. So he got deported to Britain to be financial minister. To be ambassador to Britain. Then the next guy, then after Zelensky got fired, he got deported and sent to Britain to be the dude in exile there, the ambassador in exile. Okay. Syrskyi came to power. Syrskyi isn't even Ukrainian to my understanding. I think that he is an ethnic Russian, and the rest of his family lives in Russia, and they support Putin, and they don't like him. Anyways, preparing for its forces to seize Ukraine's second largest city, which is located near the Russian border. Ukrainian presidents warned this week of a looming Russian offensive that could begin in late May or June. We cannot ignore any information about the enemy's preparations for offensive actions, so we are taking all measures to respond to such a possibility in a relevant way. Once again, I don't think I even pointed it out because it's just, but Zelensky wants to launch another counteroffensive. Like, dude, when you had like a bunch of equipment, you couldn't do it. It was a disaster. You didn't even make it through the first line of Russian defenses. You ran all those tanks over fucking minefields. Like, you condemn probably tens of thousands of brave men. And probably, I don't know if it would be 30, 40, 50% of your armored equipment just got destroyed in that retarded offensive that no one thought, like, that any sane person would say. We already have experience of combat operations in Kharkov Oblast. We managed to calculate the actions of the enemy and liberate a large part of Kharkov Oblast, said Syrskyi, referring to lightning offensive that liberated swaths of the Kharkov region in fall 2022. It was then the Russian fronts collapsed. If the Russians go there again, Kharkov will become a city for them. So once again, like, let's just, if you look at Russian movements towards Kharkov, yeah, like, the line was much longer. Previously. Like, this was a massive salient. Russia didn't have the troops at the time to hold it, so they withdrew back and shortened their lines and took a defensive position. They invaded Ukraine, and I don't deny this, with too few soldiers. I think the initial goal was one of two things. One, Ukraine would just collapse, or there would be a coup, a pro-Russia coup or something. Or two, he could force Zelensky to the negotiating table and get what he wanted. That didn't happen, obviously, except Boris Johnson, among other things. And Russia, got pretty embarrassed because, once again, they were doing these deep YOLO offensives, but there was really no way any of this they were going to hold this. If you look at what they were treated from, most of it is stuff like here where they went to defensible positions. So the question is now, is Russia going to keep doing what they're doing, which is just keep using their superior firepower and creep forward, or at some point will they launch a big offensive? We don't know. They've been very, very quiet on that. Russia might be maybe planning to recruit tens of thousands of soldiers into their army as part of a covert mobilization with the aim of eventually encircling Kharkov. Newsweek couldn't independently verify the reports and contacted Russia's defense ministry for comment by email. Wait, what? Earlier this week, sources among the Russian... Okay, so citing sources close to the Kremlin and a high-ranking employee of Russia's Ministry of Defense, independent Russian news outlets said that Russia may be planning to recruit tens of thousands of soldiers into the army as part of a covert mobilization with the aim of eventually encircling Kharkov. Newsweek couldn't independently verify the reports and has contacted Russia's defense ministry for comment by email. What kind of, like, retarded shit is that? Like, what? They're like, hey, are you doing a covert mobilization for, like, an offensive? Could you tell us, like, where and when? And Russia was just probably told them to fuck off. Like, what? Why would they say that? Why would they give you any information? It's just bizarre. It is worth admitting we could not achieve greater success during the Kharkov offensive. Because we did not have enough resources. The lack of resources and the necessary amount of munition gave Russia the opportunity to dig deeper into the ground in southern Ukraine. In the Zaporozhye region, and the assault on these positions without effective air support could cost us human losses and equipment. The last case of Izavdaevka, we would certainly maintain these positions if we had a sufficient number of anti-aircraft weapons and artillery shells. So that was Syrskyi. We can Ukraine can still win. Now then, let's get to... Unfortunately, this is behind a paywall, so we're going to have to read a summary. Let me see, where is it? Where is that article? So I don't know if this is real or not. I held off talking about this because the only real sources I could find was on TASS and a French magazine. But we'll look at it, because somebody pointed out, Arjun, if you are using sources from like the White House website, then you should allow yourself to at least occasionally reference TASS or Russia Today, which I think is fair enough. So this was from a while back. Multiple French media reports have been leaked to the French investigative magazine Marianne. The document described an intensely negative situation for Ukrainian forces in their war with the Russians, adding important context to the political choices of Western nations, Putin's posturing, and the state of the war in Ukraine. In their article, which is behind a paywall, Marianne has disclosed 3 reports that have been leaked. Each leaked document portrayed a dismal image for Ukraine and its Western allies. So my understanding is this is stuff, internal papers within the French military that supposedly got leaked. Now, you always have to wonder with this. A Ukrainian military victory now seems impossible, the 2023 report said. The report stated that Western planners of the Ukrainian counteroffensive underestimated the Russian rivals. Planners thought that once the Russian defense lines were breached, the entire front would collapse. However, according to Marianne, the planners supposedly failed to account for the will of the Russian soldiers to hold the terrain. Now, if this report is real and this isn't like disinformation or propaganda, it's kind of a whoa man moment. So, like, they're admitting the plan was we were going to attack and the Russians were just going to run away. And that was the movie logic that we were operating under. Marianne also claimed the report spoke of a lack of Ukrainian training and how this contributed to an ineffective offensive. The report found that soldiers who had only received 3 weeks of training were launched into a Russian fortification line that proved impregnable. Ukraine cannot compete with Russians in terms of manpower. The second report... Okay, so let's see here. Zelensky would need 35,000 men per month to maintain his losses. He's not recruiting half of that. Ukraine lost much of its equipment in the prior offensive. Ukraine cannot conduct an offensive in 2024. The risk of Russian breakthroughs is real. The report notes that Russia has been surprisingly effective. Let's see here. Where is this? Biden said, "We will not walk away as long as it takes." As long as it takes, guys. So, okay. So the current thing that's being debated is whether or not they are going to expand conscription in Ukraine. It is currently, I believe, what was it the Constantine said, 27? And they want to lower it to 18. So there is a number of reasons why this is a horrible idea. But let's look at the age structure of Ukraine. So this is the age structure of Ukraine. Currently, they are recruiting people from this area. Like, if you were to lower it, it would only be this. Like, that's not very many people that you can pull in. Like, maybe, I don't know how many, but it's not very many. Also, Ukraine has a rapidly aging population, and those small number of people are the future of the country. So it doesn't make sense at this point in time for them to do this. If they increase their mobilization, then it's just going to be disaster. Um, so we'll see how that goes, but they just don't really have they don't have enough young people to do it, and it's going to be a mess either way. Let's see. Secession of the Republic of Crimea. We're in Donbass. Yeah, Ukraine is below 30 million people at this point in time, between people fleeing and lost territories. So they've been talking though about expanding the expanding conscription. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But I don't really get how it's going to solve the problem. To my understanding, like, so the situation we've gotten to in Ukraine. Ukraine parents hiding their children in basements. Frontline. Is this to avoid conscription? No, it's not. I believe they're just abducting people off the street. Yeah, they're just basically going around and just basically grabbing people to try to keep it going. And once again, we haven't, like, the one thing that we can't do is we can't negotiate with Russia. That is a no. The negotiation terms for Russia is they give us absolutely everything we wanted, and then maybe we'll win. Then maybe we'll negotiate. We aren't going to negotiate a surrender. We aren't going to negotiate a disadvantageous peace. We're just going to keep going. We're going to keep going till every last Ukrainian dies and the country just gets increasingly destroyed. Regardless of how you feel about the conflict, I don't really get how Ukraine's supposed to win at this point in time. Is it really that noble for them to just basically force Russia to make it all the way to the Dnieper? I guess once again this is some sort of plan to do something. I don't know. Anyway, so that's pretty much all I had to cover for today. We have the bunker speech. We have the new counteroffensive maybe in the upcoming year. That'll be cool, and we'll just see how it all goes. So, God bless everybody. Happy Easter, and I'll